Peace, peace, Black people. Welcome to Yemima's World, the Jelly Moose's Cafe. I am your hostess, Yemima, and it is good to be Black in the land of the living once again. All right, so I wanted to come on and do this because I've just seen lately a lot of discussion about this topic. And you can see on the screen there, the topic is, can white people practice hoodoo? Now you see the picture there, a beginner's guide to hoodoo, and I snapped that off of, I believe her name is Hoodoo Delish. I think she's a white woman that has been quote unquote practicing hoodoo for a while. And I will admit, when I first started to look into African spirituality and the different African spiritual practices, and when I started looking at hoodoo, and looking it up on YouTube, she was the first person that came up. And even then, when I was kind of clueless as to what I had been practicing all my life, the name of it, seeing a white woman practice it. And I would look at some of her videos and I was like, it just didn't sit right with me. And so I started to meet some people who were in the practice, and I, got better information about what hoodoo is and what it is not. So, can white people practice hoodoo? Yes, they can. They can. This is a free country, and you are free here to do whatever you want to do, especially if you're white. So, yes, they can practice hoodoo. Should they practice hoodoo? Absolutely not. They should keep their um, envelope baking soda hands off of it. They should not practice hoodoo. Hoodoo is a set of practices, a set of beliefs that uh, was created here in the diaspora from different nations of Africa. Let me break it down for you. So, when the Tuba brought us here from Africa, they pulled from so many different nations. And I just recently learned that you don't call the nations tribe. And I learned that from Africans. So they pulled from different nations. So you had the Wolof, you had the Mandinka, you had the Igbo, you had the Yoruba, you had the Balantas, you had the Imohag, you had the Zulus. You had all of these different nations from Africa that spoke different um, languages. They didn't call the divine source God. God came about in the 6th century, or the word God came about in the 6th century, and it was done, of course, in Europe. White man created the word God and then created God in his image. So in Africa, the divine source had a proper name. It didn't have a pronoun. So you didn't call the divine a he, a she, a them, or they. You called the divine by the divine's proper name. So if you were Igbo, you would have called the divine Chukwu. If you were Yoruba, you would have called the divine Olodumare. If you were Balanta, you would have called the divine Ngala. If you were Ashanti, you would have called the divine Nyame. If you were Imoha, you would have called the divine Amun and or Amunet, giving the divine both masculine and feminine energy, which is all of the divine source has. One divine source, it has masculine and feminine energies. And so they brought all of us here from different nations, from different parts of Africa. And when we got here, we had to create something that we could all kind of agree on. And so we pulled from different nations, different ways of using herbs, different ways of using I don't want to say spells, but using roots, different ways of using conjure, different ways of using whatever it was, of using nature, excuse me, of using nature. And we call that thing hoodoo. Hoodoo was a practice or was a set of principles that we followed to keep the white man, the enslavers, off our backs, literally and physically. It may have been a nation of women who may have been Yoruba, but they didn't know what herbs to use to keep uh, the enslaver from wanting to sneak in your daughter's quarters at night. She may go to somebody who's Igbo and may say, you know what? This is what we use to keep the men, quiet at night. So there were sets of practices that we utilize and that we learn from each other from different nations. But all of it was for our freedom and to keep the slave enslaver off of us. Even Frederick Douglass went to a hoodoo, a conjure man, and the man gave him some John the Conqueror root, and it was used to keep the enslaver off his back. So, white people, why would you want to practice something that was used to keep you powerless? Because that's what it was for. It was used to take away your power. So just because you're doing it and you're white doesn't negate the reason that it's here. It doesn't negate the reason why we still use it today to help keep you powerless. Now, these newfangled hoodoo practitioners, and I'm one of them, and I'm learning, but they're not using it for what our ancestors intended it to be. Again, number one, it was to keep the enslaver off of you, keep him out of your wife's, your daughter's quarters, keep him from whipping you, keep him from selling you, whatever it was. But it was also used to heal. When your son or your daughter or your husband or you got the skin torn from your back, you had to know what kind of herbs to use in order to put salve, what kind of herbs you could make salve out of so you could heal those wounds. Do you really think that the white folks was going to find you some Jimson weed and tell you to put that on your back after they just split it open? It was to make tea. When your child had a fever, or you had a fever, or your daughter had a fever, and you know that the enslaver wasn't going to care if they had a fever or not, you got to break that fever tonight because they got to be in the fields or in the kitchen in the morning. Do you really think that the white folks was going to give you some tea? They don't give a damn if you was had a fever of 129. You better be in that field. Hoodoo is working with nature, it's working with the divine source, and it's working with your ancestors. Now, the ancestors is kind of like the common denominator when it comes to African spirituality. It doesn't matter what spiritual system or sacred science of Africa that you follow, whether it be Vodou, whether it be Santeria, whether it be Lukeme, whether it be Hoodoo, whether it be Ifa. The ancestors play a big part in it. No matter what nation came here, the ancestors played a big part. And the white people know the power of ancestor veneration. And that's one of the things that they try to take from us. And they're still trying to do it today. They're making it seem like ancestor veneration is evil and demonic. And so many black folks are still falling for the okey doke. So you're never going to walk in your power because you believe everything that the white people tell you. But ancestor veneration um, is something that all nations of Africans who are true to their African roots do. They practice ancestor veneration. They go to the ancestors first, and the ancestors carry the messages to the spirit realm for them. You have to go to someone who's close. I remember someone told me that my ancestors were familiar spirits. Well, of course they are. They're family. You can't get no more familiar with that. Family, familiar. Oh my God, people. Lord have mercy. So I don't understand why white people, well, I do understand. Let me take that back. I know why they want to practice it because they understand the power of it. They understand the power of hoodoo. They know what African sacred spiritual sciences can do. Let me tell you how they know. Remember when Trump was going back into office again, or when he was running the second time? Paula White, black women's favorite pastor, and y'all were the reason that she was felt very easily being able to do that. Paula White um, came on and she was doing a prayer, and she called on the African angels. What she called them. She didn't say ancestors. She said the African angels. Now, of all the things for her to call on, why African angels? Why not just the angels? Period. Why not the angels? But she specifically said the African angels. They know the power that hoodoo and voodoo and Ifa and Santeria and Lukimi and all of these other sacred sciences of Africa, they know the power that they have. And it's so unfortunate that we as Black people, a lot of us don't know what that power is and we don't walk in it. There was a woman a few years ago, right here in the 757 in the Hampton Roads area. She was trying to do a voodoo spell, and she messed around and found out because she, as the folks would say, she woke up dead the next morning. And I talked to some people who worked in the shop that she went to the night before she did her spell. And apparently, she went into the shop and she wanted to get all of these candles and all of these things that had to do the tribute to Papa Legba. And they were like, "What are you doing? You know, are you an initiate?" She was not an initiate. She had just, I think she was dating a black woman. She was dating a black woman, and I don't know, they had got into some type of argument, and she just wanted to pay her back, and so she went to the shop and she got all of these tools for to do a spell using Papa Legba, and she woke up dead the next morning. I know that's an oxymoron, but I'm gonna say it again. She woke up dead the next morning. So why people? And I spell it like that because I don't understand y'all. Why? Why? There is one white woman. Found a um, she found a statue. She was out hiking and she found a statue, and the statue was covered in cowrie shells. And she took it home and she got in her car and videotaped it and was asking people, I found this. This is really cool. Like, should I put it back or what should I do with it? And I just wanted to tell her, take it home, put it in your bedroom, light a candle in front of it and just, worship it. That's what I wanted to tell her to do. So again, can white people practice hoodoo? Yes. Yes, you can. You will not have the same power that black people have because hoodoo was birthed out of the African soil through the transatlantic slave trade, the Ma'afa. So yes, you can practice it. You will have no power, absolutely none. Now there are a lot of Appalachian, you know, traditions that they have. You have your witches, you have your warlocks, you have, all of those things that are there for you that is part of your culture, part of your heritage. I would suggest you tap into that. You will have probably more power. Now, this chick that's where I have up there the beginner's guide to hoodoo, she has so many likes on her videos. She's been around for a while, and a lot of her followers are black. And so I'm trying to understand how black people will follow white folks that say they practice hoodoo But then when black people say they practice it, it's demonic. Somebody make it make sense. I don't know. Is it not demonic because white people doing it? Have you truly bought into the stereotype that black is demonic? No matter what you do, everything that you do is demonic. Now again, can they practice it? Yes. Should they practice it? Hell no. 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 They should not. I listened to a podcast of from Papa Sear, and he talked about he did an interview with a man who claimed he practiced hoodoo. I think it was down in Louisiana or Mississippi. It was one of those southern states, and he said, yeah, he works with John the Conqueror. No, you don't. No, sir, you do not. You might be working with John the Baptist, but you ain't working with John the Conqueror. Because John the Conqueror was our Christ figure on the plantation. John the Conqueror was the one that we would go to when we needed to remove ourselves mentally from the plantation. You know how people go to Jesus and they say, oh, well, Jesus will wipe all your tears and Jesus will take that pain away. That's what John the Conqueror did for us on the plantation. No, sir, you're not. John the Conqueror don't work with enslavers or descendants of them. No, no, sir, you're not. So, white people, if you're watching this, stop. Go and find you some Appalachian folklore, some Appalachian folk tales. Let me tell you a great example of this. I am a huge fan of the old 1950s, 60s, and 70s sitcoms. Black, white, green, yellow, purple. I don't care. I love watching the old sitcoms. One of my favorites is the Andy Griffith Show. Now, if you are a fan of the Andy Griffith Show, then you know about the Darlings. The Darlings were mountain people. They lived out up in the mountains. If you watched every single episode that the Darlings was on, they practiced some type of Appalachian magic. Whether it was Charlene doing a divorce spell, um, or them going to church with witches and all this, that, and the other, they did Appalachian folk magic. So, white people, you have that. You have that. There's even an episode of Barney reading tarot. And tarot is yours too. You can have that. You know, anybody can read tarot. It depends on what spirit you tapping into. When I read tarot, I tap into my black ancestors. So I'm gonna just say this, then I'm gonna get out of here. Be very careful, white people. And you better hope and pray that the black ancestor you tap into and call on, that you don't look like the same woman or man who either who raped them when they were in the physical, who sold their children when they were in the physical. You better pray that none of your ancestors did that to my ancestors when you decide that you want to call on black people, on black ancestors. Tread lightly, tread lightly. All right, I'm gonna get out of here because I was gonna do this real quick. But yeah, white people, just stay the fuck out. Just stay out. All right, I'm gonna go. You know the drill. Love yourself, love each other, give yourself some grace, and give others some grace. Stay cool. It's still hot. Oh, we're praying for Jamaica. Jamaica's getting really, really hit really bad with this storm called Hurricane Beryl. I think that's the name. They've got hit really, really hard. The Caribbean has gotten hit really hard. So we're gonna pray for Jamaica. Um, stay healthy. I'm trying to get on a health kick. It ain't going too well, but I'm trying. And most importantly, stay black. All right, peace. Until next time, peace, y'all.